Okay, so we're going to try to solve this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at see if we can factor it. It doesn't have anything in common, so I can't take a GCF out. If I were to break it in two and try to group it, I would can take an x squared out over here, and I'd have 3x plus 5, but I can't take anything out over here, and so the inside the parentheses wouldn't be equal. So we are going to try to do our P and Q test. So we're going to write all the factors of P over all the factors of Q. So the factors of P are 1 and 3. The factors of 3 again are 1 and 3, plus or minus. So now we're just going to simplify this. And so what I would do is look at this first. And so this is going to become plus or minus 1. And then look at this, 3 over 1. That gives us plus or minus 3. And now we need to reduce the other one. Let's see here. So now this, so plus or minus 1 over plus or minus 3, which gives us 1/3. And then now as we look at the next one, 3 over 3, well, 3 over 3 is just 1, and we already have that factor. So we don't need to worry about that. Okay. So now that we have our possible roots, we are going to do our synthetic division to see if we plug 1 in, what will our output be? And we want our output to be 0. So set it up. 3, 5, -11, 3. And so now we need to choose one of these. You could choose 1, 3, 1/3, positive, negative, doesn't matter. I always start with the easy one, positive 1. So bring down the 3, and now let's just start plugging it in. 1 times 3 gives us 8. 8 times 1, -11 plus 8. -3 times 1. And 3 minus 3 is 0. So we got pretty lucky because the first one we plugged in worked. So that's going to give us, we know that 1 is a root. So when we write this as a factor, again, we want to think about what makes this equal 0. When I plug 1 in, I want this whole thing to equal 0. So if I had a 1 here, 1 minus 1 equals 0. So since this is our remainder over here of 0, now we're going to write our expression 3x squared plus 8x minus 3. And now we're going to look at this and see, can we factor this? Remember, the whole thing equals 0. So if you wanted to try your magic x, take the first and last. 3 times -3 gives us -9, and 8 goes on the bottom. So what numbers multiply to -9 but add to 8? So that would give us positive 9 and a -1. And so since our leading term here is not a 1, we have to do that extra step. And the extra step is we are going to divide now by our leading coefficient, this 3. So can we reduce this? Well, 9 over 3 becomes 3 over 1, and a -1/3 doesn't reduce. So when we go to write our factors over here, remember this is the first term, so it's going to be x. This is the constant, plus 3. This is our leading coefficient, 3x. This is our constant, minus 1. Minus 1. So as we look at this, if you were to multiply this together, x times 3x is 3x squared. 3 times 3 would be 9x. X times negative 1 would be the negative 1, so that we have the 9 minus 1, which gives us that positive 8. And then 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. So we factored it correctly. Now we just got to look at these things and make them all equal 0. So x minus 1 equals 0. X plus 3 equals 0. 3x minus 1 equals 0. So you can just look at these and know that this one is 1, negative 3. Over here, this one, we're going to want to add the 1 to both sides. Divide by 3 equals 1/3. So I hope this helps. I know the homework might be a little bit more challenging than this. Just do the best you can.